Now, the greatest radio shows of all time.
Suspense.
The Shadow Node.
Washington calling David Harding, counter-spy.
Classic radio theater.
The Great Gildersleeve.
Fibber McGee and Molly.
Dragnet. Gunsmoke.
The Lone Ranger.
Now, step back into our time machine with your host, Wyatt Cox.
Good evening, friends of the Inner Sanctum.
Now, our second podcast of what some people call Bomb Day, it actually has, we've had the second bomb already drop on Hiroshima. This is from August 10th, 1945, 80 years ago. And NBC, thinking that, I guess this was going to be VJ Day, recorded all of the shows in the day. And we managed to get a hold of a big hunk of the afternoon shows. So we're going to let you hear some of what NBC was airing. WEAF in New York, air checking all of the shows. And we're going to start off with probably one of the best known names, Mary Margaret McBride, the chat show that aired every afternoon on NBC. This episode was broadcast at 1 p.m., what we would now call Eastern Daylight Time. At the time, it was Eastern War Time, 1 hour advanced. And your guest is the well-known aviator, Eddie Rickenbacker.
It's 1 o'clock, and here is Mary Margaret McBride,
who has been in a steady state since about 9 o'clock, no, earlier than that, Captain Eddie Rickenbacker, last night, of her heart just turning somersaults inside of her. That was watching your picture and seeing those raft scenes. And I tell you, what really just did me in was when that first airplane, when you could hear the noise of it.
The sad part of that, Mary Margaret, was that it disappeared. That's when the heart breaks.
Well, that's what I mean.
We were frantic.
That's what I mean. The faces of those men, of you and those other men in those rafts, as the noise of that airplane went away. Those gaunt, fatigued, burning up with thirst, dying from hunger men.
Well, it was heart-rending.
Yes.
Put it all in that few words.
And you know, Adelaide Rickenbacker, I was thinking about you at that moment. Where did you spend that time?
Well, I was working for the Army at the time, and I worked every day. That's the biggest blessing I know of, keeping busy.
You went right straight ahead.
Mm-hmm. With the proviso that nobody mentioned what had happened.
Yes.
So we went on as before.
You mean nobody was to
Nobody mentioned that anything was different than it had been the day before or the week before.
Well, I've just been saying to our audience here in the studio that I think I'm the luckiest woman alive. Here we are on this thrilling day. My heart turned somersaults last night, and this morning I actually woke up at just about the time that the news was being said on the air that perhaps the end had come with Japan. Still, there's no confirmation of this business, as you all know, because I know everybody's been hanging on the radio. But I've just been in that restless state, you know, with my heart doing flip-flops. And you started it, you see.
No, I didn't start it.
Yes, you did.
Mary Margaret, I've had those jitters ever since last night when I listened to our president at 10 o'clock.
Yes.
And the thrill that came with that announcement and his positive statement was something that I can't explain. And then this morning as I was shaving at 7:42 and I heard the flash over the air, I collapsed practically because, to me, the war is over, and that was a definite sign. It's just a matter of detail from now on.
That's right. It might take the whole weekend, but it's finished.
Well, I think that the President of the United States could well afford at this moment to dedicate the weekend to the victory and adding Sunday as a day of prayer in gratefulness for the end of the war and the saving of hundreds of thousands of our young men's lives. Because there is no doubt in my mind that the atomic bomb, which I have known about for some time past, and like everybody else who has, had to be very secretive about it, I realized that its potential was unlimited And on the other hand, right on top of that, Russia with her mighty forces came in from the other side, and Japan has no way out, so that the leaders that are left must automatically recognize that unconditional surrender is their only hope in order to save what they have left. Otherwise, it is the obliteration of the nation and of the peoples of Japan, as our president stated last night. The possibilities of the atomic bomb are so great that no one, even in his wildest imagination, could conceive the destruction and havoc that they create. Now, I think it augurs very well for the peace of the world. I mean by that here is, for the first time in the history of the world, a weapon designed by the greatest scientists that we have of the age, which is the most destructive ever created by mankind, and at the same time, it also can be used in the hands of the right men as the greatest angel of peace that was ever created. And I think that's the way it'll be used. And for that reason, I say to you frankly today, the war is over. It's a matter of detail. The business of trying to keep the Emperor of Japan on the throne is a detail that can be worked out without any difficulty insofar as the future is concerned. And to me, this is the end of all wars for a long time to come.
Oh, how glad I am to hear you say that. It's got to be, or we'll be annihilated.
Correct, and we may be nothing more than Mars and a lot of other planets that are unknown to each other. Furthermore, the thrill I get out of it is personal, and also it's general, because I have a youngster. My oldest boy is in the Pacific, Tinian, as an aerial gunner in the Marines. I can see him coming back, and I can see millions of others coming back now to a happy home and a peace-loving nation.
Tell about, what's his name, Tinian?
David?
No, David. Tell about David going into the Marines.
Well, typical of me, the father, I had tried to promote him into going into the Army Air Forces, naturally, having been in them all through 2 wars and in the interim. But he didn't seem to think so. In fact, he was smart enough to realize that he had a father who had been publicized, right or wrong, but to a great many millions, and that the record was there that he would have to fight and have to overcome in order to accomplish anything in his own name if he got into the Army Air Forces. And to make a long story short, he waited until I got as far away from home as I could. I was in Moscow, or I'd been out in the Urals in Russia, and when I got back to Moscow, I found a cablegram that came through diplomatic channels from Adelaide telling me that David had enlisted in the Marines as a buck private and had been accepted and would be inducted before I got back. So I immediately cabled him that I would come to wherever he was on my return, and I was sorry I wouldn't get to see him before. On arriving home, I found a letter from him saying, "For God's sake, Daddy, don't come down here to Paris Island." That's where the boot training was taking place for the Marines. Because he says, "You set me apart. I've got enough to live down by having your name." But every time, and he said, "By the way, please get a hold of the public relations director who claims he knows you, and did, and tell him to quit pulling me off the job or out of ranks and photographing me, because then I have the opposition of the gang for days on end, and just about the time I get back in their good graces and become one of them, why, bing, something happens again." So I said to Adelaide, "He's positively right. I won't go down." And I wrote the public relations officer and told him frankly that I thought he was making a mistake for David's sake and for the rest of the boys. But in the interim, he moved over to
Oh, wait, let me tell you something, Miss Mary Margaret, before I always love to interrupt him. The last picture we got, he was stirring soup.
Now, who is boss?
He was stirring soup and doing KP duty and looking like $1 million. And he had a side of beef that I would have given $100 for beside him.
But to show you the spirit of the Marines and how they indoctrinate them with that esprit de corps, he wanted to get into something on his own, and he finally moved over to Memphis. And on Father's Day, 2 years ago, he called up, and he said, "Hello, Daddy." I said, "Hello, pal, how are you?" I always called him Big Pal and Little Pal. He said, "You are talking to Corporal David Rickenbacker of the U.S. Marines." He had just been promoted that day from a first-class private to a corporal, which to him was worth more than any generalship in any Air Force.
And I bet it was to you, too, right that
In
minute.
a great measure. Indeed, Mary Margaret.
Where's Little Pal?
Little Pal is playing golf right now. He's only 17.
Oh,
He's
so
going
he's
to Harvard.
He's going to escape this war.
Well, we hope. He's going to Harvard.
Oh, of course he's going to escape this war. This war
Well,
has ended. Eddie
This war's
Rickenbacker
ended,
just
but I'm
said
only
so.
thinking of the I'm thinking of the training courses that they have been proposing but haven't been passed yet. That's all.
Well, I don't think we need to worry about that. The main thing is that that might do him some good. I think it would do all boys some good to get the benefit of a short period of training in military activities for their own physical and mental development, plus their knowledge gained of how to be disciplined and how to respect authority and the elders, which a lot of boys don't do or don't get until it's too late sometimes in life.
There you go, Eddie Rickenbacker, sticking your neck out the way you're always doing, bringing up a
controversial issue.
Bringing up a controversial issue.
Well, Mary Margaret, I unfortunately am built that way, but I've always liked to speak my piece and say what I think, and I think that's one reason that people respect what I do say is because they know I've tried to be honest all my life. I'm sincere in what I say. That doesn't mean I'm always right.
No, you say a wonderful thing in American Magazine for this month. You say that nothing tickles you more than having your prejudices knocked into a cocked hat or being proved absolutely wrong because you're so excited about the new things that are coming up all the time in this marvelous world that you don't care a bit.
That's why I say that I don't see any reason for people being dismayed or disheartened or discouraged. With all of the tremendous skills that are coming back in the hands of millions of our young men, with all the energy of life and imagination and know-how and the individuality, they're going to make things hum in spite of us older people. We have lived our life to a great degree. They're only starting. They know how. They've proven that all over the world. If it wasn't for that American know-how, you wouldn't have the war as far along as it is today in our favor, because it's that individual spirit and indomitable courage that goes with the free men that makes them fight intelligently, not as robots, such as those who have been dictated to by totalitarian powers above, so to speak, at the top of the government. In other words, fascists and Germany and Italy and Japan, where they've had nothing to do but carry the gun and told when they're to die and when they're not to die. Now, our boys aren't organized that way, mentally or physically, because they have the heritage of a free man, which has been the blessing of America and which has made America what America is today. I want to see that preserved. I'm sure it will be preserved. And here you have coming electronics, unbelievable possibilities. You have new industries such as the development of the gasoline turbine and the jet propulsion.
You mean that turbine you talk about was just one little...
Yes, it'll revolutionize the power of the world. That means development, progress. You can take television, radar, television. A lot of people think of it in terms of nothing but entertainment. I don't. I think in terms of it as being able to let me, my air transport company, come down and see the airport through the thickest of fogs, through the most violent of storms that may exist, and see it just as plain as if it was a bright sunlight day. Now that we know is possible today. Plastic development, that means you're going to have plastic buildings, you're going to have frozen dinners that you get all wrapped up in one little package and stick in a little oven, and you can have the nicest dinner you ever had in your life. Well, think what that's going to do for the housewife. It's unlimited in its potential. And then you've got the farmer. I always think, and you do, the farmer getting up at 4 a.m. in the morning, work to 10 o'clock at night. Not with the new machinery that is being developed, being able to spray for the airplane acres, thousands of acres, or millions of miles. Even sow the seed with an airplane, or destroy the enemy of the crop. All of those things are going to take the burden off of the farmer. Now, these boys are coming back with that in their minds because you can take, pardon my bumping the table, but I'm getting a little enthusiastic about my subject, Mary Margaret. You can take the boys that were pulled off the farm, who would still be just farm boys. You know what they're doing today? Flying B-17s, B-29s, flying fortresses over Japan, all over the world. Or they're handling a great big monster of a tank, or a great big half-track, or a tremendous self-propelled... Let's quit doing that, right?
He's upset.
Stop my hand.
We're a terrible noise for your listeners.
I understand. I apologize, Mary Margaret.
That's all right. It just sounds more bumpy when they hear it on the air.
Well, I'm glad they know what's doing it or who's responsible.
They can...
So you can't blame me for being enthusiastic about the future.
Does that plane exist that you described that can rise right up all by itself and go right off on a destination and land?
Definitely. The heliocopter is in its experimental stage, of course. But it's simply a matter of perfection now, mechanical perfection, and you'll be landing on top of Rockefeller Center someday. You'll be landing in the front yard. You'll be able to go backwards. And then you'll fool your friends when they see you coming. Or you can go sidewise, right or left, up or down. Now, that's something to look forward to. That's why my article in American Magazine said, I am living for tomorrow. I always have. Which reminds me that I started doing that quite young in my years. I was about 9 years old when it suddenly dawned on me that someday I was going to die. And that all of the things that were being done would be beyond me. I wouldn't get to see them. I wouldn't be here. And I would go off by the hour, crying and bemoaning my fate, until Dad got a hold of me one day and wangled out of me what I was crying about, and then gave me a darn good licking, and I forgot all about not being able to see everything. But inherently, it is there, and I think that has probably had a great deal to do with my unlimited faith first in power above, and my strong desire to live, to see and help do the things that are going to be done. And I probably am able to say that I've cheated the old Grim Reaper more in the last 35 years than any living man of this generation.
I was going to ask one of you that. How many times do you think that he's really been, reported practically dead? I remember that radio time. It's in the picture, too, where the radio said that he'd die in a matter of an hour or so.
And that jolted me out of my lethargy. And I let that thermos bottle of drinking water go right at the radio. And then I called for help. And, of course, it didn't portray the true story or all of it because of the time limit. But I called in the nurse and the doctor, and I raised so much cane about these false reports getting out that I was dying.
Well, let me get this straight. Did you actually hear it?
Oh, definitely.
We kept the radio on because it seemed to soothe him, you see. We didn't realize any such news as that was coming over. He was unconscious most of the time, but it did soothe him.
Which time was this?
This was the the aviation crash in Atlanta.
In Atlanta, Georgia. And you came out of the coma just in time to hear him say you were going to die.
And I was mumbling, and I wasn't as audible as I was in the picture, but no one could understand what I was trying to say. And finally Adelaide came in, and I was trying to tell her to get a hold of David Sarnoff, Mr. Paley, and Mr. Kopak, and tell them to call those wolves off, that I wasn't dying. To get their commentators to say I was going to live. It was interesting from that angle. But you asked Adelaide a question a while ago. I think probably I can answer it better. There are 7 times that I remember definitely that had my toes in the pearly gates. I'm assuming that they were pearly. But that's another thing. It's a mighty easy thing to die. It's the sweetest thing in the world and the simplest thing to die, because everything is serene and sweet and there's music and you're just in seventh heaven. And then's when I start fighting, because I don't like that kind of music not at the pearly gates. And I always back away. So that there are other times probably that I missed it. I know of several, but you could never measure them.
No.
So it isn't because I have any super ability or I have any super knowledge. It's only that I try to be practical and honest and factual, sincere, realistic, and at the same time I recognize that I am not the captain of my destinies. There's someone above that always directs those activities and destinies. And in his hands lie that power. And one thing I'd like to see the American people understand more thoroughly, and they should be grateful today, above all days, for the end of the termination of this violent war with Japan. And that is that we should get back to Christianity, because without Christianity, there is no such thing as world peace. And if I were the President of these United States, and I admire Mr. Truman tremendously for what he has done and how he's done it, I would declare a weekend holiday, and I would have Sunday as a day of prayer and thanks for the end of this horrible catastrophe. I never meant anything more in my life.
Oh, I know you mean it. I think you always mean what you say. I think you do change your mind sometimes. Later, doesn't he, Adelaide?
Oh, yes, occasionally.
Not always.
Not always.
What was it your father said to you about machinery?
Well, of course, I was building this perpetual motion machine in my little shop behind the house, and I used to work day and night on it, and for fear that someone would find my secret before I had a chance to really complete it, I had the little parts made all over town, a little part in this shop and a little part in that shop. And then I'd assemble them, bring them home, and assemble them at night after my day's work, and work until 12 o'clock with a gas light. And the people, neighbors, used to wonder what I was doing, but I always had a big padlock on there for fear someone would steal my great invention. Well, of course, perpetual motion is like a lot of other things. That has to come from above, not from mankind. But Father was always interested in machinery. He was terrifically mechanical, and his thought was that I should pin my hopes and future on machinery. He didn't mean that I should eliminate any faith in God, because they were Christian people, both mother and father. But he said, if you did and were willing to work and dream, that they'd never let you down. Well, they haven't. It's the machine today that has destroyed Japan, our enemies. Now, the main thing is to use that machine for the right purpose, and that's what I've been trying to do throughout my lifetime, is develop the automobile, which I was in on from its very inception. I went through the development of the early stages of the airplane. I'm still in it and developing. I think we're just on the threshold of air transportation, because I can see where in another few years we'll be going to any city in the world in a matter of hours. Well, that shrinks the world down to a 10th or a 20th of its present size. That in itself is going to mean tremendous strides toward world peace, because you're going to be able to meet other people. They're going to know you. We'll have an intercourse there by transportation of knowledge. We're going to have our products transplanted and theirs transplanted. And I don't think any peoples will fight any other peoples if they know them well, any more than neighbors will if they know them well. And then if there is a dispute, it'll be adjudicated by this world organization for which we are grateful. At least I am.
Did you really, when you were a little boy, did you actually take a baby buggy and
I did, and I paid for it.
And an umbrella?
In a good thrashing.
And you flew right off a roof?
I came down off of that roof thinking and placing too much confidence in Mr. Dinkelspiel's the butcher's umbrella, one of those big umbrellas, and it collapsed on me like, you know, an umbrella does in a storm, inside out at the wrong time, and I got a few bruises and cuts out of it, but that was all. But Mrs. Weston lost her carriage wheels, the baby buggy wheels, because they were a mess. Crashed.
All this is in the picture, which I still haven't named, I think. Every time I start to give the picture a plug, he says something profound. And I think that poor Ted Lloyd in there would love to have me mention that this picture is at the Roxy Theater, and it's called Captain Eddie. Don't you think that Ted would like that? Doesn't he look relieved?
Very important information.
And I will say more about it. I will say that I found it tremendously exciting, that I had a wonderful time. I thought all the raft stuff was simply wonderful. And while you've had such a life, you've crowded so much into your 50-odd years that nobody in the world could get it all into a motion picture. It seemed to me that they hit the high spots, including your romance and those early days, and all that seemed very authentic to me. All that, the automobiles and the horses and buggies and the way the women dressed and the way the men dressed, it all seemed authentic, and I imagine that they'd put a lot of study, hadn't they, into that?
About 2 years of research, Mary Margaret, and every sequence is based on a fact. Mm-hmm. The only regrettable part is, as you say, to crowd 50 years of life into an hour and 3/4 is difficult. It should be a serial.
And you could leave it just at the perils of Pauline Point, too. Yeah. Every time you could just be waiting for you to be rescued or saved from dying somewhere. 7 parts you could have, all the 7 times when he's been near death, when he knows he's been near death.
What you call near misses, I suppose.
Yes. I also, last night, was reading Seven Came Through. That's the book that tells about the raft experience. And do you remember you were talking about the loneliness of the night?
Indeed, they were horrifying.
Yes.
And particularly when some of the boys who were going out of their mind would have these terrible hallucinations and nightmares and the piercing shrieks that would come with them. And, of course, I, being the oldest man in the group and having gone through so many things, this was just another to me. But to them it was the first one, and the most horrible part of that experience was, as I said often, to see the cracking of younger minds. And, of course, I had only one weapon. That was to berate them and crucify them verbally in every way I could in order to get them to take their minds off of themselves and be against me. As many of them said when they got on land, the only thing we were waiting for was to bury you at sea. And they were so mad. Well, that's what I wanted. I wanted to keep them off themselves. Mm-hmm. And I had to make them mad at me in order to do so. Well, they all understood it after it was over, but in our physical state and mental state, it was difficult for them to at the time. That's another interesting thing. History records that flight or trip as being 21 days, that fishing trip, as I like to call it. Actually, the way that happened was the newspapers here at home got and remembered the announcement date of our loss and the day we were picked up. It was 21 days. But I assumed it and took it for granted and paid no attention, and so did everybody else. In fact, wrote the book and mentioned 21 days until Colonel Adams and I were gasping and gabbing about the past one day, and he said, you know, we were on that raft 23 days. Well, I said, simple to figure that out. We went down on the 21st of October. We were picked up on the 13th of November. So 31 days in October, left 11 days inclusive, and 13 days in November. But we were on the other side of the date line, so you had to cut a day off, you see, which made it 23 actual days. None of us ever thought of it. Mm-hmm. I was in a state of mind that it didn't pay any attention to checking, you see. But that's the truth, and that's how it happened.
Well, you'll have to amend history to get that in, because that raft story will go down as one of the great war stories of our time. Did that go just settle down on your old hat?
Definitely, and if I hadn't witnessed as Mary Margaret, I'd never tell the story. No. And I felt like I was shaking the whole Pacific Ocean out of its boots reaching for it because I was so nervous and upset for fear he'd get away, and we needed him badly at that time. He did us a lot of good because we carved up that great big carcass about 1.5 inches in diameter into 8 big portions, as you can imagine, and then took his intestines and used that for bait, and we caught a couple of fish with it, which saved our...
And that gave you great encouragement, didn't it, right at that minute? You suddenly felt there are fish in this ocean and we can catch them.
All of that happened after we had pulled the rafts together, when I noticed the little Bartek had saved the Bible, Initial Bible, and was reading it. So I pulled the rafts together that I had tied together on crashing, and we thankfully prayed to God in heaven for food and water.
And you read that from Matthew about take no thought for what you shall eat or what you shall
repeated that
do.
often, and we also sang such songs as We Kindly Light and Onward Christian Soldiers, because not only was it helping me spiritually and mentally, but it was helping them tremendously, and did help them. It gave them a new lease on life. And that afternoon, within an hour, that gull came down from nowhere and landed on my head. And that night we ran into a very violent storm. Usually I run like a jackrabbit from them, but with this one we paddled just with all of our remaining energy to get into it. It's a turbulent storm. Waves were 30, 40 feet high, and the raft broke away. One of them did, and we had a difficult time getting it. Another one upset. It was midnight, black as ink, but out of it, by using our shirts and our socks and our handkerchiefs, we...
To bring you a special bulletin. The National Broadcasting Company has interrupted this program to bring you a special bulletin from the NBC newsroom in New York. Stockholm. Official confirmation that a Japanese surrender offer was received by the Foreign Office of neutral Sweden was made in a communique issued in Stockholm today. A Swedish Foreign Office announcement said the Japanese request for a cessation of hostilities was communicated to the British and Russian governments. I'll repeat that. A Swedish Foreign Office announcement said the Japanese request for a cessation of hostilities was communicated to the British and Russian governments. We return you now to your regularly scheduled program. Keep tuned to your NBC station for the later news.
Whitaker and I might last another week or 10 days, but we wouldn't have been conscious. And a rather unique history goes with these raft cases, because always when one dies, no matter how many are in them, it's the living that buries the other at sea, so that there's always only one carcass, if they all die, left. And there have been several of those cases found in the Pacific and on the shores of South America, where they know that there were other men because the dog tags, identification papers were there, but the bodies were gone. And the strongest always buries the weakest of the dead.
They take, each man who survives takes all the papers
That's correct.
of the others to keep them for the relatives.
That's correct.
And so they might find one carcass.
So in my opinion, there'll be rafts found for years with a skeleton in them, or rather with nothing but identification tags or cards.
Adelaide Rickenbacker, I feel that we've kind of neglected you. Was it he who said you would talk the most?
Yes, he said I should do all the talking today. I'm not a bit disappointed.
No, you knew how it would turn out. You told me yesterday over the telephone. She said, I'll just sit there. I'll come along. I want to come along. She was good enough to say once when she was sick, she heard us broadcasting.
Oh,
very well.
Many weeks. And for 10 years ago, I used to drive in from Bronxville to luncheons, and or right after luncheons, and turn you on and listen to you. You were with me a great deal. You have for many years.
Well, that's very pleasant for me to hear. There's one more thing. What did you have on your mind?
Well, I'd like to say right now that this is station WEAF New York, and then you may go ahead.
Oh. You looked so kind of imposing. I thought you had maybe a big announcement.
Well, there may be something coming up.
Oh, really?
Yes, we're standing by for something.
We are?
Mm-hmm. I don't know just what it is, so just continue with the program.
Oh, do I go? Are we on the air?
Oh, yes. Mm-hmm.
Oh, well, that's all right.
Yeah.
You never know, you might, they might get a flash and just give it right then and there, and we might be taken off.
This is one program you and I'd be delighted to be taken off of for the right news.
Wouldn't we love it? Oh, we rejoice.
I know you would.
There's just one more thing that I don't know quite how to put it. I want to get out of you, since we're just sitting here very informally and in this lovely, friendly way. When you came back for that time, you sort of, that was one of the times when you were a sort of controversial issue.
A little bit.
Yeah. But I never felt that you felt anything but kindness towards labor and towards even unions and towards Russia and...
I came back from the Pacific after seeing our boys dying out there for the lack of weapons and munitions and medical supplies and malaria, working the clock around day and night. I came back and found people indifferent. A great many of them, indifferent. And the absenteeism was terrific. And I knew what those boys craved, and I knew if I could get our people to understand, and I crossed this corner 3 or 4 times, begging, pleading for another ounce of energy, another few minutes of time. And surely I said things against those who I dislike violently, racketeers, and I don't care what line of endeavor they're in, whether it's business, finance, the political, or labor, or even radio. I don't like him in any line.
I guess I started him, didn't I?
From that point of view, I have always been a laboring man. I've labored for 43 years now. It hasn't hurt me, and I'm working harder today than ever worked in my life. I respect union labor because I've made a business of even putting my own organization 5-6 years ago into the union, my organization of mechanics. Definitely, I did it. And a lot of the insiders know it, but the boys that are racketeering in labor like they do in any line of endeavor are not interested in seeing me eliminate their future. And I can't blame them for that. That's their prerogative. That's what makes a democracy. So when they criticized or started to smear me, all I could do was every time they threw a brick, I'd throw 2 back at them. And the result was that the truth was found out. They understood me and recognized the facts. And today, I have no trouble.
Here is the bulletin we are expecting from the NBC newsroom. It's from Stockholm by International News Service. It says that the Swedish Foreign Office has confirmed that a surrender offer has been received from the Japanese government. The offer was transmitted upon receipt to the Russian and British representatives in Stockholm.
Well, that's it, then.
Thank God for that.
Yes, that's official, isn't it?
I felt that this morning, Mary Margaret, when this flash came across. To me, the war was over. Then it's a matter of detail and diplomatic negotiation plus military understanding.
Well, I have some products that I want to mention today. I can't tell you what a great pleasure it's been to have you Rickenbackers here today. Captain Eddie and Mrs. Rickenbacker have been our guests on this very great day. And to have Eddie Rickenbacker, the great ace of the First World War, and the man who had perhaps the most striking adventure of one of the great adventures of this war, who has helped so much with aviation. It's just like a miracle that I should have been lucky enough to have you today.
Frankly, Mary Margaret, I think we're the lucky ones.
We're all lucky, and I remind you again about the picture because I want you to see it. I think you'll like it just as much as I did. It's at the Roxy Theater, and it's called Captain Eddie. And in thinking about my products, I was remembering what I'd read that Captain Eddie Rickenbacker had said about the businessmen. Sometimes I hear from people who say to me, I can't tell, are you a liberal, and yet you go right along with business? Or others say to me, you're a Middle Westerner, and yet the Reds are going to get you yet. Proving, that I'm somewhere, I'm just myself. I have great respect for the men who founded companies like mine. I've got some wonderful stories, as a matter of fact, among my products. Wonderful stories of enterprise. The poor boy, H.C. Bohack, for instance, my H.C. Bohack stories. There was a boy who came over here to his family to escape persecution. Came right from Germany, and he slept under the counter, really, when in the first little store that he worked in. And he built this great H.C. Bohack company with stores in Brooklyn and Long Island. It's a wonderful business.
That's America.
It's a wonderful story, isn't it?
It's America's opportunity. And that's why I say, and may I inject here, without cheating your sponsors out of too much time, that's all I'm interested in is protecting that opportunity.
That's right.
That was given to me.
That's right.
And that's why I think so much of our president, because no man could be born and reared in Missouri and associate with Missouri mules without getting a little American dirt on his feet.
Well, then there's my S&W, Fine Foods, for instance. There again, you have the same story. People who pioneered in producing a real brand where you could trust the brand name, where you could buy everything under the same brand and know that you were going to get good things. I think I have some stores to mention where S&W Liquid Apple is being demonstrated this week. The World Food Markets and the King Cullen Grocery Company, 3 stores in Westchester and 23 throughout Long Island, and the World Food 6 fine stores throughout Queens, and the Stop and Shop Market in Huntington on Main Street, and the World Food Markets in the Bronx, 5 of them. And the Bohack specials, by the way, for today are sweet, delicious honeydew melons, 10 cents a pound, and fresh, young, tender corn from nearby farms, 5 ears for a quarter. Well, the whole banana industry grew up from enterprise. That man Keith, who was helping build a railroad in Costa Rica. And it took 19 years to build, and the first 25 miles cost 4,000 lives. And he decided to try shipping bananas to pay some of the terrific freight costs for bringing in necessary materials. There's another great business story. Of course, you come from that to golden bananas that's flecked with amber that you ripen at room temperature, and then they're delicious to eat. And then there's the Sardic tomato mix, which really, that's my baby product, and it's a post-war product. It's done by this Sardic company, which has been working in unusual methods for dehydrating vegetables and fruits. And the Peter Reeves markets, we were saying, have this Sardic tomato mix, which you use whenever you need tomatoes for seasoning, for sauces, for dressings of all kinds, for meatloaves. It's a wonderful product. It's just going to sweep everything before it. There's Henry Sells liver patty. That's another product that's just going like wildfire because it's new and different. Henry Sells thought it up, worked at it for years and years, developing it. He has a right to cash in on that. I feel that very much. There's my dromedary gingerbread mix, the product of a company founded in 1871 by John and William Hills, who first started dealing in imported fresh and dried fruits and then thought up this mix idea. A mix.
I use it.
Everything, yes, and it's wonderful. Everything in it. There's the Griffin Company. For more than 50 years, Griffin has been making shoe polishes and putting every ounce of integrity in himself into it. I mean, a whole family. There's the Ehlers tea. Brothers now, but their grandfather thought up the idea and had went from door to door selling his product. There is this Bella Killarney tea in the grade A and the tea in bags. It's got the most romantic and lovely story back of it, of men who care so much about it and have put everything they are or ever can be into it. You can't tell me that isn't. That's something.
That's America.
That's America. Sweetheart soap. Every product we've got has this whole story of struggle, of achievement, of putting the best into it. That oval cake that smells so good and makes such a grand lather. It's got that. There's my diff washing powder. The factory that makes our diff has been experimenting with cleaning products and producing washing powders for more than 20 years. And what they wanted to do was produce products to clean everything from baby bottles to bombers. And they've actually done it. It's diff washing powder that you wash your stuck-up pots and pans with. Let's see, what else, Vincent?
Well, our Fanny Farmer shops, for instance.
You just look at a Fanny Farmer old-time candy shop. By the way, they've changed the hours.
Oh, have they?
Vincent,
what are they
today.
now?
Jiminy, what were they before? They're 1 now, 1 to 5.
1 o'clock, 1 to 5.
Except on
Wednesday
on
still?
Wednesday. Yeah, Wednesday's still the same, but 1 to 5. Fanny Farmer old-time candy shops, they won't make more candy because they are bound to keep up their quality. And they've stuck to it. Even when they could give you very little, they gave everybody some and sent as much as possible to the men in service. Then there's enriched tip-top bread. There's another great industry where they've worked and worked, finding how to put vitamins back into bread so that you can have white bread or bread that you like enriched tip-top with the stars on the end of the wrapper, and yet it's good for you. It has irons and vitamins and all the things that make you healthy and strong and keep you that way.
And that takes care of everything except Noxon.
Noxon. Well, there again, you have the same thing. You have a company that just went to work to produce a fine product and made surveys. They tested and tested and tested every kind of product that there was for cleaning metals, and Noxon, this creamy liquid that you rub on, rub off. They perfected it, and now 4 out of 5 prefer Noxon. That's the way that is. You going to tell me to shut up?
Well, not in so many words, no.
Oh, you're just going to do it politely.
I'm going to do it politely because time is
Gee,
almost
I
up.
hate to leave today because everything's happening. And if Eddie Rickenbacker, you ought really to be a serial on my program. How would you like that? Just tell your whole life from beginning to end.
I'd love it, providing you'd let me keep a few sequences or episodes undercover.
Oh, you mean there are a few things you won't tell?
A few only.
I think we ought to, if there is any time, we ought to use them to pay a little tribute to Adelaide, who has done a wonderful job in this war. She has worked with so many organizations, and her name, quite apart from your name, Captain Eddie, is well known as a fine woman who's done her duty.
I love my work.
Mary Margaret McBride returns Monday afternoon at 1 o'clock. This is Vincent Connolly speaking.
This is the National Broadcasting Company.
And Mary Margaret McBride takes us up to 1:45, where we will hear a report of news of the world from NBC next, as we listen to the programs from the day before BJ Day, August 10th, 1945, here on Classic Radio Theater. We're not just about old radio shows, we're about history. Now we continue on this Classic Radio Theater special, the August 10th, 1945, Japanese surrender in sight. Let's listen to a 15-minute newscast with NBC's W.W. Chaplin and Morgan Beatty from the NBC newsroom.
This is W.W. Chaplin. I'll be back in a moment with news of the world.
Today, Mr. Chaplin will be joined in this report on the news by NBC's veteran Washington reporter, Morgan Beatty. Since the Tokyo radio made its announcement early this morning, both Bill Chaplin and Morgan Beatty have been helping to cover the various developments on the surrender report. In the NBC newsrooms in this country and in our news centers all over the globe, all editors, reporters, and correspondents have been on the alert, and many times on the air. Here in the NBC newsroom in New York, our full staff is standing by in direct contact with Washington and with all points overseas. In addition to our regularly scheduled news programs, such as this daily report at 1:45 p.m. Eastern Wartime, NBC will call in its worldwide staff of correspondents whenever news developments warrant. Today, as always, we are concentrating upon the task of bringing our listeners the news, speedily and accurately. We suggest that you keep your radio tuned in to your local NBC station. And now, from the NBC newsroom in New York, here is W.W. Chaplin.
And here is a bulletin, the very latest development to come in. The International News Service has just reported from Stockholm that Sweden's government issued an official communique saying the Japanese surrender offer had been received by Sweden. It has been transmitted to the Allied governments. That is the very latest development. This is a day, of course, of wild speculation, of high hopes, of reaching for a world peace, which seems at last to be no more than just beyond our fingertips. But here are the cold, hard facts as of right this minute. The war with Japan is not finished. We are still fighting Japan, on the ground, on and under the sea, and in the air. The war is not ended. Those are the facts up to this minute. Now for the story of the sensational developments of this morning, which makes it necessary to emphasize the fact that we are still at war, no matter how close peace may be. The Japanese radio suddenly blared to the world today the readiness of Nippon to accept the surrender terms listed in the recent Potsdam ultimatum, if. With the understanding is the way they phrase it, but what they mean is if. The Potsdam Declaration is not interpreted to lessen the power and position and prestige of Japanese Emperor Hirohito. Here's the exact way they phrase it. This is a translation into English from the Japanese, of course, but it's their own translation, so we may accept it as exact. Here's what they say. The Japanese government are ready to accept the terms enumerated in the joint declaration which was issued at Potsdam on July 26, 1945, by the heads of the government of the United States, Great Britain, and China, and later subscribed to by the Soviet government, with the understanding that the said declaration does not comprise any demand which prejudices the prerogatives of His Majesty as a sovereign ruler. And now we call in for another late report, NBC in Stockholm.
This is Sven Nordberg speaking from Stockholm. There is as yet very little information about the latest startling news available for the time here in Stockholm. But the Swedish Foreign Office has confirmed that a note from the Japanese government was handed over to the Allies today. A spokesman of the Foreign Office tells me that at 12 o'clock Swedish time, that is 7 hours ago, the envoyé extraordinaire et ministre plénipotentiaire of Japan in Stockholm, Mr. Suemasa Okamoto, was received at the Foreign Office by the new Swedish Minister of Foreign Affairs, Mr. Östen Undén. Mr. Okamoto handed over a note and asked Mr. Undén to forward it to the representatives of the British and Soviet governments here in Stockholm. The British and Russian ministers were immediately sent for and received the Japanese note from Mr. Undén. That is all the spokesman of the Swedish Foreign Office can confirm, but he adds that it is most likely that a similar ceremony has taken place in Switzerland today, where a note was handed over to the American and Chinese ministers. So far, the Swedish Foreign Office. And that seems to be all information available here. I have called delegations of the United States, of Switzerland, of Russia, and of Japan. Everywhere the answer is, we can make no comments on the present situation. The only reaction noticeable here in Stockholm is one of tense expectation. The posters of the evening papers here all say peace in letters 10 inches high. But if one looks closely, the careful reader discovers a little question mark after that word. So I return you now to the NBC newsrooms in New York.
This is W.W. Chaplin in New York again. You just heard NBC in Stockholm telling us that the Japanese surrender offer has now been placed in the hands of our representative there. I told you, before we heard from Stockholm, what the Japanese conditions are to accepting our demand for unconditional surrender. Whether we will accept such an offer, such conditions, the next few hours should tell. President Truman's cabinet is right now gathering at the White House. But for the moment, we have not accepted. We are still at war with Japan. Up to this moment, Russia is the only one of the big four which has actually received at its capital the Japanese Qualified Surrender offer officially. When Russia declared war against Japan day before yesterday, Japan must have already had this offer in mind because they did not clap the Soviet ambassador into custody, as is the custom. They kept him in circulation so they could use him today. And this morning, he was officially handed the Japanese conditional surrender note for direct transmission to Moscow. We and the British and China, of course, have no diplomatic representatives at Tokyo, and so it was announced that we would be informed through Sweden, which, as you have just heard from Stockholm, that note has now been passed. Those relayed offers, so far as we know, have not come through yet to Washington, and of course no official action will be taken until they do. But we know what the Jap offer is, both from the Tokyo radio report and from the text of the official note to Moscow, which unquestionably is a copy of what we are to get. So the international telephone lines were buzzing today between the White House and the Kremlin and 10 Downing Street. The Allied leaders are, in effect, have been holding a Big Four conference by remote control, a conference such as never was, because on its outcome depends whether we are at last going to call an end to war all over the world right now, or whether we must still fight on to get a peace without any strings attached to it at all. Popular reaction to the Jap offer has been mixed. There was a big GI celebration on Okinawa. Crowds thronged the streets in London, even more jubilant than they were on VE Day. In Chongqing, crowds jammed the streets, clapping their hands and popping firecrackers. In Washington, people gathered along the fence surrounding the White House, and a special guard was posted. In Moscow, the Russians seemed to take it in their stride, the possible sudden end of their 2-day war with Japan. And here in New York, we must be as hard to excite as the Russians. So far, I haven't seen one bit of paper come twisting down in celebration from the skyscrapers. And now, I want to bring to this program a man who was with President Truman at Potsdam. He was there when the ultimatum was issued. He returned with him on the cruiser Augusta and is now in Washington. He was representing all four major American radio networks at the Potsdam Conference. So here, to give you a picture of the present situation from his special vantage point, is NBC's Morgan Beatty.
Thank you, Bill Chaplin. And I might add that all of your colleagues on the Berlin front, the veterans of Normandy and the surrender in Europe, send you their best regards, and they wish you were there with them. Everybody's interested today in the Japanese surrender terms, and I'd like to stress what you have already pointed out. Widespread use of the word official today by government spokesmen in several world capitals. Charlie Ross, the President's secretary, says that the President has no official word. The Swedish Foreign Office now has official word, and so on. There is behind this the implied meaning that unofficial word has been passing among the warring powers, as you've already pointed out. And behind the vacuum in news lies the real story of events, a story we're not going to get right away, and we might as well be patient about it. Today I can report to you, however, why we're not going to get that story right away. Beneath every other reason lies the fundamental fact. There is no basis in any Allied capital for mutual trust in any degree of the Japanese. Every last piece of business we do will have to be checked and rechecked. The important thing to remember at this time is that no peace with the Japanese can come until the surrender talk has reached a military decision, and that decision has been tested in the field by military and naval commanders in touch with each other. So far, not one word pertaining to military decision has been spoken in any of the big three capitals, which means the talk is still on a high plane, a diplomatic plane, and it can't mean much until it gets down to the gun-firing men on battlefronts, who so far have no order to cease firing so far as we know. There was a lot about Sweden in your broadcast, and Stockholm itself came up, NBC in Stockholm. Maybe I can throw some light on this here in Washington. First, Sweden is the only official contact of all the Allied nations, the only capital of a neutral in this world where all Allied powers are represented. That is not true of Switzerland, even though the Jap is trying to get and use Switzerland to get in touch with us and the Chinese. Official contact and confirmation takes time. The Swiss began to handle Japanese affairs only recently, and they must familiarize themselves with codes and channels. We use the American legation at Bern to get in touch with Tokyo. The Japanese use the Swiss legation in Washington to get in touch with us. It is far more likely that the real trading for Japanese surrender is being done through the Moscow ambassador in Tokyo and then through the ministerial corps in Sweden for this reason. Contact is by instantaneous wireless telephone between Stockholm and Tokyo and Moscow and Tokyo. All the big powers are represented in Stockholm. They are not in Bern. And what's more important, the American, British, and Russian governments have far more confidence in the teamwork among their ministers in Stockholm and the Swedes than they have in any other neutral capital in the world. This team transmitted the unofficial talks that ended the war in Germany. They know how to work together smoothly. Furthermore, the Swedes undertake humanitarian work of this kind with a degree of courage that has not always been displayed elsewhere. They are willing to break protocol, formalities, at the risk of the displeasure of great powers. They are willing to put their personal safety in jeopardy if necessary to achieve peace. That has been shown several times during this war. But even so, the talk back and forth on a purely unofficial plane takes time. Then there's the matter of military commanders in the field, the Japanese troops in New Guinea, in the Philippines, in China, Manchuria, and in the home islands. What about them? Will they accept the orders of the Japanese government? We have no proof as yet that they will. It is true that military commanders of opposing armies can get in touch with each other by radio and do much oftener and more quickly than they have in past wars to arrange temporary truces and so on. But in this case, the troops are scattered all over Asia and Asiatic island areas. If an agreement should be reached on a high level, every commitment by the Japanese will have to be tested in the field. White airplanes, perhaps, will have to fly over certain spots at certain times with certain messages, or something similar will have to be arranged to test out whether Tokyo speaks for all Japanese. Then there's the matter of 135,000 American and European nationals now in the custody of the Japanese. Their safety must be guaranteed in some way. They must continue to get food, and we must have a guarantee to that effect. All of these details take time, and we on the sidelines do not yet have the key to the time element. By that I mean we do not know how long the three powers on the highest level have been talking with a trusted third party, if they have been doing that. We don't know what has been said, whether surrender conditions are actually being worked out, or whether there are major points still to be decided. The only light I can throw on that point is this. On our way back from the Berlin conference, I am quite certain President Truman thought there was a definite chance for the atomic bomb to end the war. Somehow I felt that he must have more reasons for thinking that way than the atomic bomb itself or even Russia's entry into the struggle. And now, Bill, one last-minute bulletin dated London by the Associated Press. The Stockholm radio confirms tonight that Japan has handed the Swedish Minister of Foreign Affairs a note to the British, American, and Russian governments offering to surrender. And now, Bill Chaplin will be back with you again Monday at this same time.
During the past quarter hour, as part of NBC's extensive coverage of the news, we have presented W. Chaplin, Morgan Beatty, and Sven Nordberg. During the preceding hours, NBC listeners today have heard many special broadcasts on the report that the Japs were preparing to surrender. We've given our listeners such distinguished commentators as H.V. Kaltenborn, Robert St. John, Caesar Searchinger, Henry Cassidy, and many others. And today, too, NBC took its listeners to London, Paris, Manila, Guam, Honolulu, and many other points for historic sidelights and reactions to the news. Thus, NBC is ever alert to serve its listeners with complete news coverage. And not only that, but NBC provides its listeners with top-quality entertainment. And while entertainment is on the air, listeners have another advantage on NBC. They can be sure that when any big news breaks, NBC will give it to them promptly. W. Chaplin is heard each weekday at the same time, Monday through Friday, over the network stations of the National Broadcasting Company.
And that brings us up to 2 o'clock Eastern Wartime. After we've now heard the news of the world, we're going to hear a long-time soap opera, The Guiding Light. It was as it aired 2 o'clock Eastern Wartime on Friday, August 10th, 1945, 80 years ago. We'll hear that next. One of the few times here on Classic Radio Theater that we are kind of flying by the seat of our pants. But we now go to 2 o'clock for an episode of one of the longest-running shows in soap opera history, The Guiding Light, as it aired at 2 o'clock Eastern Wartime, August 10th, 1945, 80 years ago.
The General Mills Hour. This is Charles Lyon, your host, welcoming you to the General Mills Hour, an hour of good listening. We bring you 3 outstanding serial dramas, The Guiding Light, Today's Children, and The Woman in White. And over many of these stations, the Betty Crocker program. While all the world is awaiting confirmation of the news from Japan, life still goes on, as it does today for Pete Mano. It doesn't take courage to take the consequences of our wrongdoing when no other course is open to us, but to be in the position of Peter Mano, to have committed a misdeed that no one knows about except his wife, and that he can be punished for only if he confesses it himself. To be in that position and to choose to confess it, to choose to take the consequences, that calls for great integrity. In taking that course, Pete justified the faith that others have in him, justified his faith in himself. That is his guiding light. The Guiding Light. Brought to you by Cheerios. Shopping for the family groceries is no fun these hot days, is it? Especially standing in long lines waiting to buy ration food. So here's a suggestion for something that isn't rationed, and it'll make a third of all the meals you serve this week mighty good. Your breakfast. And this is what I'd suggest you be sure to order. Cheerios. Yes, Cheerios, that delicious ready-to-eat cereal that's made from oats in the form of tiny, golden little donut-like shapes. Yes, ma'am, it's a fact. Cheerios is made from nourishing whole-grain hulled oats. And it's ready to eat, needs no cooking. It's mighty appealing to see and mighty good to taste, too. Cheerios has a really great flavor that folks find worth repeating. So tender and crisp because Cheerios is exploded in a unique type of gun to give it that pleasing, distinctive crispiness. Do try Cheerios.
put it on your shopping list right now. And when you go shopping, look for that yellow package with the blue bowl on it. Ask for Cheerios. And now, the guiding light.
Darling, any further news on the radio?
No, they're still waiting for something official.
Well, it can't be long now.
Yes, thank God.
Angie, you aren't eating much breakfast.
Oh, as much as I usually do.
It was quite a storm we had last night.
Mm-hmm. It seems to have cooled things off a little.
Well, we haven't too much of this hot weather left. It'll be fall before we know it.
He's going through with it. Going to the Bar Association. To Mr. Burroughs and admit what happened. The mistake he made 7 years ago. It took him all night to come to a decision, but his mind's made up now. He hasn't said a word, but he seems so relieved. More like himself than he's been in weeks. He's got courage. Taking such a course voluntarily, going ahead with it even though he knows it may mean disbarment. The end of his career. Disgrace. Oh, I hope they'll be fair about it. I hope they'll take the circumstances, his record, into consideration. I want him to do the right thing. I prayed that he'd be able to face it. He's got to be true to himself. He's got to make peace with himself. And he never could if he fell down on this. But it would break my heart. Just break my heart if they made him stop practicing law. If he had to start all over again in something else after working so hard to get where he is.
Some toast, Angie?
Oh, no, thanks.
Now, look here. Didn't Jonathan tell you should eat more? Get your weight up?
Oh, he wants me to gain a few pounds, but don't worry, I will.
Well, a little conscious effort won't hurt any. At least, darling, drink your fruit juice.
Yes. Here, let me pour you some more coffee.
Just a half a cup. Oh, good. Thanks. Are you tired, baby?
Oh, not particularly. Why?
Well, you didn't get much rest last night. Staying awake until I came up. And you seem a little preoccupied.
I guess I am a little sleepy.
You're not worrying about things, are you?
Why, no. No, of course not.
Well, you mustn't, darling. What time is it? I forgot to put on my wristwatch.
10:15.
Oh, I've got to be getting downtown. And you'd better go back to bed, young lady.
Oh, I'll have a good nap this afternoon.
Don't get up. I'm just going to grab my hat and run.
Pete?
Yes?
You're going to see Mr. Burroughs today, aren't you?
Yes.
Call me as soon as you've talked with him, will you?
Yes, I'll call you right away.
Good luck, darling.
Thanks, baby. And you remember what I told you. No worry. Everything is going to be all right. And I'm filing blackmail charges against Drake today. I had one of the men assigned to my office pick him up. Well, that's the story, Mr. Burroughs. I came to you because you were state's attorney, my superior, when it happened. When Blackie was tried.
I see. I hardly know what to say, Pete. I remember the Hall case, some of the circumstances. 1938, wasn't it?
Yes, that's right.
There's never been any question in my mind that Hall was guilty. He pulled a number of jobs before the jewel robbery, but he was pretty clever. We never could get much on him. That's why I assigned the case to you. I wanted a conviction. Had no idea, of course, that your brother was involved, or I'd have certainly had one of the other men in the office handle the case.
Well, I've told you how his name came into it. It was a surprise move by the defense. Blackie tried to pin the whole thing on him, and Tony was strictly innocent. A case of a boy falling in with bad company and being made to go.
I seem to remember you used to have a theory about giving people a second chance. First offenders, youngsters caught in a jam.
Well, I applied the theory to my own brother, but I went after it in the wrong way.
How has the theory worked? Has your brother justified your faith in him?
Completely, Mr. Burroughs. He's gone straight as an arrow ever since. He lives in Detroit. He has a job as an accountant there. Married to a fine girl, 2 children, a nice little home. I'd hate to see him involved now.
I don't see why he should be. Judging from what you've told me, there's no evidence against him. Certainly none that would justify reopening the case after all this time.
No, there's not a shred of evidence against Tony.
Well, I wouldn't worry about that part of it. If I know the state's attorney, he isn't going to prosecute an innocent man. Particularly not the brother of his special assistant. Scott Matthews is pretty sold on you, Pete.
I'm afraid he won't be after I tell him what I've just told you.
You know, I don't quite understand why you've come forward with this. Now, that is, after keeping it to yourself for 7 years. Hall's dead, and you say he's the only one you had to fear.
Mr. Burroughs, maybe it was myself I feared. The effect on me of keeping it secret any longer.
Well, in any event, your action's purely voluntary.
Yes.
You realize that as president of the Bar Association, I have no choice but to refer your story to the grievance committee.
I expect you to do that.
And you understand what that may mean? Possibility of disbarment, the end of your legal career.
Yes, I understand everything.
It's a very difficult duty you impose on me. I remember telling you as a youngster, just starting in as an assistant prosecutor, that you'd someday succeed as a state's attorney. I'd hoped that prediction was about to be fulfilled.
I'm sorry I've let you down.
Let me down? I wonder. A man can afford to lose everything but his integrity. If he loses that, he loses all. No matter what kind of office he's gained in the meantime. Somehow I think your integrity's safe.
Thank you, Mr. Burroughs. Have you any idea when the grievance committee will act on the matter?
I believe it's meeting tomorrow. You'd like to have it considered as quickly as possible, I suppose.
Yes, of course. The sooner the better.
Well, I'll see what I can do. Shouldn't take more than a few days.
Good. Well, I won't take up any more of your time. You know how to reach me if I'm needed.
Yes. I don't know what they'll do about this, Pete. But as a friend, forgetting for a moment that I'm president of the Bar Association, good luck. And may I shake the hand of one of the most courageous men I've ever known.
You are listening to The Guiding Light. You're wondering what to have for breakfast tomorrow? Well, why not try this? For your cereal, serve Cheerios, topped with fresh berries. Follow this delicious dish with soft-cooked eggs and toast. You'll save yourself some extra dishwashing by serving the fruit as a topping for the Cheerios. And why not let the eggs cook themselves while you enjoy your bowl of Cheerios and fruit with the rest of the family? The folks will enjoy that, I'll bet. And you can bet they'll go for Cheerios on sight, for they'll love the shape it's in. You see, no other cereal looks like Cheerios. This nutritious cereal is shaped just like tiny little donuts, crispy, round, and golden brown with a hole in the middle, and so wonderfully crunchy crisp. That's because a unique type of gun explodes each tiny little shape to make Cheerios extra tender, wonderfully crisp. Yes, Cheerios brings you fine flavor, unique shape. But here's the big story. Cheerios brings you fine food values as well. Here's why. Cheerios is made from oats, nourishing whole grain hulled oats, one of our best grains for growth and food energy. When served with milk, Cheerios provides protein, food energy, and thiamine, vitamin B1, in a single dish. All three vital to growth and stamina and helpful in combating unnecessary fatigue. What's more, Cheerios needs no cooking. It's an oat cereal that's all ready to eat just as it tumbles from the package. So why not treat your family to Cheerios for breakfast tomorrow? Today when you shop, ask for Cheerios. It's ready to eat and made from oats. The only cereal shaped like tiny little toasty crisp donuts. Get Cheerios today.
Well, it's done. There's no turning back. Perhaps it will be the end of Pete's career as a lawyer. Perhaps he will have to begin all over again. But at least Pete can say, with the poet, "It matters not how straight the gate, how charged with punishments the scroll. I am the master of my fate. I am the captain of my soul."
The Guiding Light aired for 19 years on radio between 1937 and 1956 and overlapped a little bit with the TV series that aired on CBS for 57 years between 1952 and 2009. In the longest-running American soap opera, 72 years. And this is an episode, nothing else, between Mary Margaret McBride and hearing an episode of The Guiding Light from its initial run on NBC from 1937 to 1947 when it moved to CBS Radio in 1947, and then it would go on TV in 1952. So that's a little bit of factual information there on The Guiding Light. All right, we are listening to programs from August 10th, 1945, the day before. Everybody thought, it's any time now. Japan's going to do this any time now. So we'll hear coming up next another quarter hour on the General Mills Hour called Today's Children. We continue now with our look at the Japanese surrender in sight, August 10th, 1945, and we hear this report, or this program entitled Today's Children, a part of the General Mills Hour, as it aired at 2:15 Eastern Wartime, August 10th, 1945. It was a Friday.
It took Otto Schultz a long time to make up his mind to go through with the operation that he'd been told might restore his sight. Once his mind was made up, however, he lost no time. And now Otto was again a patient in a hospital. It is Municipal Hospital this time, where Dr. Burton, Jen's father, is chief of staff. Lying perfectly still in his room, waiting for the day when his bandages will be taken off, when he will know surely whether it is to be his fate to see again or to spend the rest of his life in darkness. Time moves slowly for this one of today's children.
Today's Children, brought to you by Betty Crocker Soup. You know, Charlie, it's kind of interesting reading someone else's mail this way. Yeah, I get quite a kick out of it.
Reading someone else's mail? Why, Gordon.
Oh, well, she said I could, Charlie. Betty Crocker, I mean.
You are reading Betty Crocker's mail?
Well, yeah, some, but She had her staff over at General Mills pick out some letters she thought I'd get a kick out of. Like this one from Mrs. Smith, for instance.
Oh, and what does Mrs. Smith have to say to Betty Crocker?
Well, she's Mrs. Bill Smith, and she lives in the region of Sway City, Iowa. She writes that when she makes vegetable noodle soup, it's almost like having Betty Crocker with her right in her home helping out.
Oh, I catch on. Mrs. Smith is talking about the Betty Crocker vegetable noodle soup ingredients.
Ah, right you are, Charlie. It's easy to see that she's just tickled pink with this packaged soup of Betty Crocker's. Says it's just wonderful to be able to make such good soup without all the old-fashioned work of preparing vegetables and monkeying around with noodles and so on.
Well, it really is wonderful, isn't it?
Oh, you bet. All the gal has to do is empty the package of Betty Crocker's soup ingredients into a kettle of boiling water, along with a touch of fat or a bouillon cube, and let her simmer. So darned easy. And yet it's home-cooked soup. And it has Betty Crocker quality.
And, brother, what a difference that makes.
Ah, Charlie, you took the words right out of my mouth. Betty Crocker quality means pick-of-the-crop vegetables, especially rich egg noodles, and seasonings that are just plumb delicious. No wonder the ladies are writing fan letters to Betty Crocker about her vegetable noodle soup. Now, our story continues.
Miss Davis?
Yes, Otto. How are you feeling now?
As well as I can. It's almost as though my head were in a vice.
Oh, I know it isn't too comfortable, but it's very important that there be no movement.
Sure, I understand that. I'm not complaining.
Oh, you've been a very good patient. Perhaps you'd like some water,
Oh, swell. I am a bit thirsty.
How's that?
Good. Thanks.
Let me smooth out these sheets a little. Real nice and neat. Let's put your arms outside. There now. Now I think you're ready.
Ready for what?
Ready for your visitor.
Visitor?
Mm-hmm, your mother.
You mean she... Oh, wonderful.
Oh, but remember, no moving.
Don't worry.
You may come in now, Mrs. Schultz.
Oh, thank you.
I'll be down the hall if you need anything.
Yeah, thank you.
Mama.
Otto.
Oh, it's good hearing your voice again. Sit down, Mama.
Have you heard the news, Otto?
Yeah, I have a radio. Isn't it exciting? It makes everything worthwhile somehow.
I know, Otto, I know. How do you feel, Lily?
Just as good as new.
Oh, you sound fine, Otto. Fine.
Funny.
What is it that's funny?
I was just thinking about us, what I said, and what you said.
What did you say? What did I say?
Well, I said it's good to hear the sound of your voice, and you said you sound fine, Otto.
So? You think maybe that's funny?
Well, that isn't what I meant, Mom. You see, all my thinking has been... Well, I've had to rely on sound, and touch too, of course, but sound has been the important thing in my life ever since I was injured. You know, it hasn't even occurred to me to think that if this operation is successful, I'll be able to see your face again. Jen's. I've never seen Jen. I've been alone in this room for a few days, no visitors, and not once have I thought in terms of sight. Before I came into the hospital, while I was trying to decide whether to go through with this or not, I used to imagine what it would be like to see again. Even partially. Do you understand what I'm trying to say?
Well, I don't know, Otto. It ain't too clear to me. It ain't important to you, the seeing. Maybe only a little.
Oh, of course it's important. Important to me, important to all of us.
It's important, even that you are here with us. That you are happy. Remember, like I told you.
Yes, I remember. I remember everything you said the day I left to come to the hospital. I remember every word. I remember it when they took me to the operating room. I kept it before me during the entire operation. Faith. Mama, you've given your kids an awful lot.
Oh, I shouldn't take all the credit. Your papa, he's been a good papa.
Sure, fathers are important. They're important to boys.
Now, to girls, too.
Sure, to girls, too, but a mother. A mother, Mama, can do things for her kids that can carry them through all the problems that are bound to come up day in and day out. A mother and a wife, they're terribly important.
All right, Otto. Jen, you're thinking of.
Yes. I wish I had some idea when we could be married.
Jen, she wants to get married soon. That's what she told me.
No, I wouldn't think of getting married, Mom, until I'm able to take care of her. Take care of the two of us.
Yeah, I know. She told me that, too. You know, Otto, she's going to be like one of my own girls.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's the way I wanted it to be.
When I was coming over here, she said, I ain't going to call you Mama Schultz no more. Just Mama.
When you were coming over?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
So, she will be here in a few minutes.
Jen?
Huh?
You mean she's here?
God, you shouldn't move, Otto. She drove me over here.
Well, where is she?
She wanted to see her papa. I think maybe she is in his office somewhere in the hospital. That's where she said she was going.
Tell you is that to date everything's gone as well as can be expected. There's very little to do now except wait until the bandages can be removed.
In a week or so, you say?
That's right.
Such a long time.
You just can't hurry nature, Jen. Not in cases like this.
I know. Is it all right if I drop in to see Otto for a moment, just to say hello?
Oh, of course. I assumed when I heard that you were driving Mama Schultz out that my permission went for both of you.
I wasn't sure.
But you'd better not stay too long, Jen. He mustn't have much excitement.
All right, Dad. Leaving for your office now?
No, I have a few things to do before I can get away.
Well, in that case, I think I'll go down.
Now, remember what I said, Jen. Not too long.
Just a few minutes, Dad. Oh, Dad. I'm sorry about our argument last week. I don't know what made me say the things I did.
Well, I hope you didn't mean them.
Of course I didn't.
I'm glad. It's all going to work out, Jen. And try not to worry too much.
Okay, Dad. Bye.
Bye, Jen.
Dad's pretty swell. I just didn't have the right to hurt him the way I did. When I accused him of interfering, making Otto's decision for him, trying to run his life. And mine. I think Dad understands a lot of things about me that I haven't even understood myself. My negative attitude about the operation, my failure to encourage Otto's going through with it. I've been afraid. Not for Otto. Not really. There's so little danger, and no matter what the outcome is, I know he has courage enough to face it. But there's so much I haven't the courage to face. I love Otto so much just the way he is. I've loved being able to help him and do things for him. Yes, I've loved having him need me and depend on me. That isn't all. I've been afraid to think of what might happen. I'd build a world for him in the darkness, a world for the two of us. But if the world of light should open up for him again, will my place be the same? Will everything be the same? That's what I've been afraid of. Afraid without being able to admit it. This is the first time I've admitted it to myself. I couldn't even explain it to Otto, not to anyone. No one would understand. In a way, I hardly understand myself. And yet I am afraid. Afraid that Otto might regain his sight. Oh, dear God. Don't let me say that again. Don't let me think it. Don't let me even think it.
Listening to Today's Children. You really take home a lot of good eating when you put some packages of Betty Crocker vegetable noodle soup in your market basket. You see, you get 6 big bowls of home-cooked vegetable noodle soup from each package of the Betty Crocker soup ingredients. That's right, 6 big bowlfuls, and of mighty good soup. But of course, this soup is bound to be good. It's Betty Crocker quality, and what a difference that makes. It means pick-of-the-crop vegetables, special rich egg noodles, an exciting blend of seasonings. To cook, merely simmer these Betty Crocker soup ingredients in water with a little fat or a bouillon cube. This weekend, stock up. Say to your grocer, make it 3 for me. 3 packages of Betty Crocker vegetable noodle soup.
The thing that has made Jen dread the operation for Otto is a fear of losing him. Of course, in a way, I can see the reason in her thinking. If the operation is a success, if Otto is able to see again, it will change everything for him, put him into an entirely new world. But would that change his feelings for Jen? Isn't his love for her great enough to survive that change? Well, it seems to me that what Jen needs right now is a little of the faith that Otto spoke about. Faith in the ultimate good of whatever happens. The faith that Mama Schultz has given in such great measure to all her children. Well, friends, we'll be back in just a moment. Meanwhile, we pause briefly for station identification.
WEAF, New York.
Yes, it wasn't WNBC yet. It was WEAF, New York. Yes, now, I apologize because I said we're coming up on VJ Day. VJ Day was actually would not be celebrated or would not actually happen until August 15th. Those false news reports, as you're hearing here, Japan proffered tentative surrender of the Potsdam Conference. And there was a lot of this, so there you go. Now, we're going to continue now listening to more of these shows. As we roll on here, we're going to go to 2:30, and in fact, that's where we are in listening to this 2-hour block, 2:30 Eastern Time, and we will hear an episode entitled Woman in White. We mentioned earlier that General Mills sponsored the entire 2 o'clock hour on NBC, or at some stations only 45 minutes of it, because the Betty Crocker shows you heard earlier wasn't mentioned on all stations. But this is the 3rd quarter hour of the General Mills hour. This one entitled The Woman in White, from 2:30 Eastern Wartime on Friday, August 10th, 1945.
We delay the start of this program to bring you a special bulletin from the NBC newsroom in New York. President Truman and his cabinet are in session in Washington, a regular session scheduled before today's developments. Stockholm, meanwhile, has confirmed the fact that a Japanese surrender offer was received by Sweden for transmission to the Allies. And a war bulletin from Moscow. The Soviet communique reports that Red Army forces have driven forward 100 miles in the Transbaikal region of Manchuria. The rail junction of Hylar is in Red Army hands. We return you now to your regularly scheduled program. NBC is standing by for developments. Keep tuned to your NBC station for the latest news.
Very active competitor. And if Jack didn't want to be left behind, he'd better change his tactics. And so today, young Dr. Landis turns over a new leaf. And there are some rather surprising things on the new page in an interesting episode of The Woman in White. The Woman in White. Brought to you by Wheaties, breakfast of champions. Now, during vacation, when the small fry have time to get into all sorts of mischief, I'll bet you're mighty thankful for the new Wheaties Library of Sports. It's really something, this Wheaties Library of Sports. 14 books crammed full of action photos and sports information. Information that will help that youngster of yours learn to play a better game, even as it keeps him out of mischief. Now, this new Wheaties Sports Library is part of the Breakfast of Champions idea. The idea that eating right and the right kind of exercise go hand in hand. Both of them mighty important factors in a youngster's development. Now, eating right means 3 good, nourishing meals every day, starting with breakfast. Say, one that includes whopping bowlfuls of milk, fruit, and those nourishing whole wheat flakes, Wheaties, Breakfast of Champions. And as for the right kind of exercise, well, on the backs of Wheaties packages, you'll find complete information about this new 14-book library of sports for boys and girls. All of these books are by experts in the sports world, either companion champion athletics or coaches. Now, the baseball book is by Lou Fonseca, who has been called Professor of Baseball. The tennis book for boys is by Don Budge, the golf book for girls by Patty Bird. See the back of the new Wheaties packages for complete information on Wheaties, the Library of Sports. And now, The Woman in White.
Operator, this is Eileen Holmes. Were you calling me? Oh, yes, I'll take it right here. Oh, Dan, yes? What? Well, yes, I'm down in the lobby already. Oh, her flat tire. What? 5 minutes, you say? All right, I'll be waiting. Fine. I'll be seeing you. Oh, Jack, I didn't see you.
No. That's a habitual complaint of mine.
Why, Dr. Landis. How are you, Jack?
Oh, fine. Say, you look very sharp this evening.
Well, thank you, Jack.
New dress?
Well, no, just a few new doodads added to an old one. New collar.
Mm-hmm. Very nice.
Why, thanks, Jack.
I suppose you've heard the news.
Oh, yes. I don't want to get too far away from a radio this evening.
I don't blame you. We ought to have something definite soon. Eileen, I had dinner with Dr. Purdy the other night.
Oh, yes, so he told me. Had quite an evening, didn't you? Doc said it was a typical stag party.
Oh.
Gambling and everything.
Yeah. I lost 34 cents to him at cribbage.
Oh, he didn't tell me the exact amount. I gathered it was some staggering sum.
Well, 34 cents isn't to be sneezed at. He's a great guy.
I think so, Jack.
Yes, well, hope I have his sense of humor and his perspective when I've been in this game as long as he has. I'm sorry, incidentally, about blowing off steam a few nights ago. When was it? The night I sounded off about your interest in this Hill fellow?
Uh-huh. Well, now, don't think anything of that, Jack. We're all entitled to our own opinions.
Yeah, but... Well, I do get up on a soapbox at times. You know, anything for a good debate. Say, what are you doing tonight? Would you like to, maybe have a bite to eat at the Greasy Spoon down the street? You know.
I'm sorry, Jack. I'd love to, but...
Oh? You got another date, huh?
Well, fact is, I'm just waiting. I should be picked up any minute now.
Mm-hmm. Well, I just...
Well, I'd love to some other time.
Yeah. Well, we can arrange that, I guess. I'll be around.
Oh, there's Dan, sooner than I expected.
Dan, huh?
Oh, well, I'd better be running along. Thanks for the invitation, Jack. Maybe we can make it some other time.
Yeah. Yeah, some other time.
Good night, Jack.
Good night, Eileen. And Doc Purdy wants me to get aggressive in my lovemaking. Aggressive. How do you get aggressive when all you can offer is a hamburger and a movie? Hamburger and a movie. That's my speed. But why should it be my speed? Why should I stick around here and live on a hamburger and movie diet? Wait. Hello? This is Dr. Landis. Is Dr. McNeil in the house? Jonathan McNeil? I see. Do you have his home number? Look and see, will you? Oh, fine. Ring him, will you? I want to talk to him. Thanks. Hello, Jonathan? This is Jack. Jack Landis. How are you? Good. Oh, fine. I suppose you're following the news like everyone else. Sounds pretty good, doesn't it? Yeah. Listen, Jonathan, do you happen to be busy tonight? I'd like to come over and talk to you. All right. Let's say in an hour. Right. I'll be there in an hour.
Yes, Jack, I rather like this apartment. Nothing pretentious, but it's comfortable. Oh, a cigarette?
You haven't got very many. I'd better...
Oh, no, I've got another pack.
Plutocrat.
No, but the girl in my office has a cousin who works in a tobacco shop.
Oh, that explains it.
Well, what's on your mind, Jack? You said you wanted to talk to me.
Jonathan, some months ago, you and I had a talk. You said if I ever felt so inclined, there'd be a place for me in your office, remember?
Oh, yes. Yes, very well.
Well, I now feel so inclined.
Well, I'm glad to hear that, Jack. It just occurred to me.
What's that?
The occasion of our first discussion on the possibility of your coming in with me. Remember when that was?
Oh, yes. Valentine's Day night.
Yes.
I just walked out on the party where my engagement was announced. My engagement to Ruth Hamilton.
Mm-hmm. You didn't even wait for the announcement to be made.
Oh, well, I remember.
Have you heard from Ruth, Jack?
Oh, yes, I got a letter from her not long ago, from England.
England?
Mm-hmm. She's a fine person, Jonathan.
Yeah. Yes, I know she is. Well, that was all a very hectic episode in your life, wasn't it?
You're not kidding.
As I remember, you were opposed to the whole romance because it would have meant giving up your residency and going into private practice. Why the change of heart, Jack?
Well,
I know it's really none of my business, and I hope you'll forget my being blunt about it, but you must have come to your decision rather suddenly. Impulsively, perhaps?
Well, Jonathan, I've spent 2 years as a resident. I just wonder whether it isn't time for me to start getting out on my own. After all, I'm not getting any younger.
Well, that, unfortunately, is true of all of us, Jack.
Sooner or later, I've just got to start building a place for myself. After all, I don't want to remain a resident all my life.
Well, that's understandable.
Of course, if you've changed your mind...
No, Jack, I haven't changed my mind. How long do you have to go yet on your contract as a resident?
Well, as a matter of fact, Jonathan, I'm on a yearly basis.
I'm just completing my second year now. I've got another year coming up if I want it.
You planned on taking it, hadn't you? The third year?
Yeah. But, well, frankly, where's it getting me? I mean, I'd like to start living a normal life, have a few dollars to call my own.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, don't misunderstand. It isn't just a question of money.
No, I'm sure it isn't. Well, Jack, I'll tell you what. I've been planning on taking a vacation.
Oh?
Yeah, just for a short rest. Somewhere up in the woods where I can hibernate. I've arranged for someone to take over my rounds at the hospital, Dr. Whalen. You may know him.
Yeah, I know Whalen.
I hadn't arranged for anybody to see patients in the office, though. I was just going to close up shop, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
But if you'd like to pinch hit for me at the office, see the patients who drop in. There are always some dropping in every day. Well, if you'd like to try that while I'm away, you're quite welcome to, Jack.
That sounds like a good idea, Jonathan.
I can promise you it won't be very exciting. But I think it might be a fairly good initiation into the routine of private practice.
Mm-hmm. When are you leaving?
Well, let's see. I'd planned to go on the 20th. That's 10 days from now.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be gone until the 31st. That's approximately 2 weeks. Little less. Now, Jack, I wouldn't chuck everything at the hospital for this.
No. I was just thinking. I've got some time coming. I could talk to Dr. Burton, see whether I couldn't take a few weeks while you were away.
Well, you're welcome to move in. My girl will be there.
I'll talk to Dr. Burton first chance I get. If he says I can have time off, why, Jonathan, it's a deal. I'm going to see how it feels to be in business for myself. So Doc Purdy thinks I ought to be more aggressive, does he? Okay. I'll show him and Eileen what real aggressiveness is once I get out on my own. You are listening to The Woman in White. Here it is Friday again, and that means it's round up new customers for Wheaties Day. Yes, there are still some folks who have never eaten Wheaties. Now, I'm going to try to look at it from your point of view, to figure out why you may not have tried this famous breakfast of champions, and then do my darndest to think of a way to win you over. Suppose, for instance, that you tell me that you haven't tried Wheaties because you're not altogether sure that you like the taste of them. Well, maybe so, but I just can't imagine anyone not liking Wheaties. These big, crisp flakes are so mellow-tasting that Wheaties flavor is the flavor of sun-ripened wheat, toasted just right. Combine a bowl of Wheaties with, say, some fresh peaches, sweet, luscious, red and gold peaches, plus some creamy milk, and, well, I don't see how anybody could be a holdout. Why not try Wheaties with fresh peaches sometime this weekend? That's Wheaties, breakfast of champions. To bet it's going to be a shock to Doc Purdy to find out how Jack went about taking his advice. The older man certainly didn't expect Dr. Landon, who is usually so aggravatingly cautious, who never takes action until he's thought things over carefully, to do anything as impulsive as that. It's no wonder Jonathan was somewhat taken aback. Well, it isn't the first time that love has made a man behave strangely. I wonder what Eileen, the cause of all this, is going to think of Jack's new move. Well, friends, the General Mills Hour has brought you our 3 serial dramas, The Guiding Light, Today's Children, and The Woman in White. Now we invite you to listen to the Betty Crocker program, which follows immediately.
And that brings us to 2:45 on our last quarter-hour episode of this 2-hour podcast. With the Betty Crocker program. And listen to some of the interesting things that are done in this program, won't you? You're listening to Classic Radio Theater, where we're not just about old radio shows, we're about history. Okay, now we go to 2:45 p.m. Eastern Wartime on Friday, August 10th, 1945, 80 years ago today. D-Day is just 5 days away, but NBC recorded all the shows from this day, and we've got a hunk of them, and we'll let you hear as many of them as we can squeeze in here. But we will get to more of them in our next podcast. Right now, let's get some cooking advice from Betty Crocker, as this show aired at 2:45 Eastern Wartime on Friday, August 10th, 1945, 80 years ago.
The Betty Crocker Service Program, a regular feature of General Mills.
Marching along together, sharing every fight and fear. Marching along together, wishing till the skies are clear. Marching along together, life is wonderful side by side.
Friends, the leader of this band of gallant home front women is Betty Crocker, who comes to you now with a delightful account of one of our young war brides. For there is no group of women in America today who are having so hectic a time as these young wives of our servicemen. And of course, Betty Crocker has some recipes and menu suggestions planned especially for these young homemakers. But they're suggestions that are sure to be welcomed by homemakers of any age. So here she is, your Betty Crocker.
Hello, everybody. I'm going to tell you a story today, a real story of love in wartime. The man in the story is a Marine named Tony, and the girl is young, attractive, and gallant. Her name is Lois. You'll get an idea of the character of young Marines in general if I go back for a minute. It was the day after that fateful attack on Pearl Harbor. Tony telephoned his mother that Monday afternoon. He was not quite 20 then.
Hey, Mom, things are looking pretty sharp. I quit college today and went over to the airport. I applied for enlistment in the Navy Air Corps. But I gotta have your signature, Mom.
At that time, you see, boys had to be 21 to join the Navy Air Corps. Well, Mom signed the papers. And after Tony had been through 6 or 7 months of grueling training at Corpus Christi, Texas, he elected to transfer to the Marine Corps to be a dive bomber. Then a few months later, he was awarded his Marine wings. And, of course, he became a second lieutenant on that day, too. He would have 3 more months' training before being shipped overseas. So Tony pondered, as thousands of young men do, to marry or not to marry. Lois was the girl he'd taken to all the college proms. The girl whose letters, when a fellow was in training, helped a lot. Oh, yes, there was the usual question in both families. Should the young folks get married now or wait for the security of peacetime? But the young couple decided for themselves, as young folks have done from the beginning of time. Lois got a leave from her college and went down to Miami to marry Tony. There followed 3 blissful, if hectic, months. And Lois wrote Mom of their life there.
We have a darling little cottage in Miami. Of course, I have to walk 2 miles to get the groceries, but I don't mind at all.
Later, they had a tiny but adequate cottage near Daytona Beach. Then, Tony got his overseas orders. The letter he wrote his mother just before going was sober but typical.
Please don't think I consider it a sacrifice. I'm glad to accept it, as are all the fellows in my outfit. It's not a sacrifice we want for other generations to have to make, though. And that's why we're anxious to do our part and help make the world a peaceful, wonderful place it could be and was designed to be. Lois will go back home and finish college. Mom, I keep thinking of thoughtful things I can do for her all through our lives together.
Well, Tony fought Japs and jungles at Munda, at Guadalcanal, at Rabaul. And at Bougainville, he joined the Fathers Who Have Never Seen Their Babies Club. 55 combat missions he stacked to his credit, 253 combat hours. And finally, at long last, the miracle. He was sent back to the States, back to Lois and his tiny baby daughter. Lois had finished college, had earned the highest scholarship honor, Phi Beta Kappa. And now she was ready and eager to set up housekeeping near the various bases to which Tony was sent as an instructor. In one city, the only place they could find was a fashionable hotel. And Lois said they grew very tired of eating out, and it was especially difficult with the baby. Then came a jubilant letter from a famous naval base. Lois wrote,
Mom, here we are actually living in a Quonset hut. You've seen pictures of them, made of what looked like corrugated iron and shaped like an iron lung with a stovepipe in it. The windows don't open wide, just the doors. But after his time in the jungles and the hotel, Tony loves being in a home of his own. He craves home-cooked meals, which he gets cooked in anything I can find. I baked a cake in a refrigerator tray the other day. I guess it was a success. Anyway, Tony boasted about it to his fellow Marines, said I could cook anything. Well, they asked if I could make real lemon pie. He admitted I could, the wretch, though he'd never seen or tasted one I'd made. But there I was, scheduled to make a real, honest-to-goodness, like Mother used to bake lemon pie for 15. Some of the men were just back from the Pacific and hadn't tasted real lemon pie for months. Their cook had served them a deadly concoction made from powdered eggs with lemon flavoring and no meringue. It was so pale it was almost white.
Well, now, making lemon pie for 15 guests is an undertaking for a bride under the best of conditions. But Lois faced her ordeal with a temperamental oven, no pie pans, no measuring cup or spoons, no flour sifter or grater or egg beater, not even a sharp knife to cut the lemons with. So I think she had courage even to try, don't you? But she said she didn't want to let Tony down. And here is her account of making the pie.
I used a half-pint cream bottle for a measuring cup. That's what a regular measuring cup holds, half a pint. And then I just fluffed the flour up with my hands instead of sifting it the way the recipe says. Then I used a long olive bottle for a rolling pin, and my mixing board was the wooden drain board of the sink. I stretched a towel over it and thumbtacked it to the board. Then I had to use frying pans for my 3 pies. Fortunately, there were 3 frying pans. Only one was so big that I had to leave the oven door open so the handle could stick out. The pie crust really did bake beautifully in spite of all that.
When it came to making 3 times the recipe for the filling, Lois had to cook it in a huge kettle. The eggs she beat with a fork. But grating the lemon rind presented her biggest problem. She wrote,
I had to scrape and pick the rind off the lemons with a paring knife that may have been sharp once. It took hours. Tony whipped up the egg whites for the meringue with a fork, the way I'd beaten the yolks. And believe it or not, those pies were a success. None of the other wives had thought I could possibly do it.
This bride didn't cross the country in a covered wagon, nor did she collect wild berries and vegetables for their food, nor cook over an open fire. But I claim the pioneer spirit of our great-grandmothers is just as apparent in young brides today like this one, even though the conditions under which they live are so very different. Lois was certainly just as ingenious as the pioneer women who made lemon pies from vinegar. And can't you just picture how proud Tony was that his wife could provide his friends with the real lemon pie they've been longing for all those months? Well, today I'm going to give you a menu for the sort of homey meal every bride ought to know how to prepare for her husband. Of course, when you think of preparing a meal that will go to a man's heart, you think of steak. For all men seem to love steak. So I'm going to give you a recipe for a kind of steak you can all manage to serve with food supplies as they are now. We call it emergency steak, and it's just as tasty and tender and appetizing as any tenderloin or porterhouse. Serve it sizzling hot from the broiler or pan, attractively garnished with green parsley or green carrot tops or celery tops, and a few bright red radishes as a bit of color in contrast to the juicy brown steak. No one could ask for a more delicious dinner meat. Really, everyone who's tried this emergency steak is crazy about it. Here is the recipe perfected by our staff for 6 servings. A bride could make half the recipe. Mix together 1 pound of ground beef or hamburger, 1/2 cup milk, 1 cup of Wheaties, 1 teaspoon salt, 1/4 teaspoon pepper, and 1 tablespoon of finely chopped onions if desired. Pat into the shape of a T-bone steak, 1 inch thick, on a pie pan or broiler. Broil 8 to 15 minutes, according to whether you want it rare or well done. Now, if you don't have a broiler pan broil in a heavy pan on top of the stove. And don't you think that's a wonderful way to stretch 1 pound of meat to serve 6? It's also another way in which plentiful cereal foods like Wheaties can be used to extend a less plentiful food like meat. And I'm going to suggest a combination of vegetables to go with steak. Carrots, celery, and cabbage. Or just carrots and cabbage. Or green beans and carrots. Any of these are naturals in flavor to complement the rich flavor of steak. You see, rather strong-flavored vegetables hold their own nicely with steak and therefore give eating satisfaction. But for a bride who hasn't learned the technique of managing the cooking of several different foods at one time, this idea of cooking 2 or 3 kinds of vegetables in one saucepan is very practical, I think. And I want to tell you just how I'd cook them to be extra tasty and yet save butter. Cook them with salad oil, right in with the vegetables and water. For 3 to 4 cups of the raw vegetables, cut up fine, use 2 tablespoons salad oil, and just enough salted water to evaporate during the cooking in a tightly covered pan. Start with only 1/4 cup water and try it that way. 3 to 4 cups of vegetables make 4 servings. And the easiest way to cut them up fine, incidentally, is to use a big knife and a board. Hold the knife at the tip with the left hand while you hold the handle with the right hand. Chop down through the vegetables one way, then crosswise the other way, until they're the size you like. Serve them around the brown steak on your hot platter, just as you would whole vegetables. Or place the brown meat on one end of the platter and pile the vegetables on the other end. You can serve your potato on the same platter, too. The potato piled on one end, the vegetables on the other, and the meat in the middle. Don't you find that this plan of serving several foods on one platter makes a picture of the food and helps appetite appeal? And, of course, you'll want a tossed green salad with a zippy French dressing. Try putting a little extra dry mustard in the dressing when you serve this emergency steak. It gives just the right tang. Of course, every bride wants to learn to make the sort of pies that men associate with home and dream about when they're away, or luscious fudge-like chocolate cake. For chocolate cake and lemon pie are top dessert favorites among husbands here in these United States. And the folders we pack in each sack of our gold medal, kitchen-tested, enriched flour will give the beginning cook easy-to-follow recipes for such desserts. Right now, many women are finding in their gold medal flour a recipe for 2-in-1 cake made by our new speed method. You'll recognize it as old-fashioned marble cake. It's a combination of smooth, satiny chocolate cake and tender, fluffy white. What's more, our staff have added a footnote to this recipe explaining how white corn syrup can be used for part of the sugar. One can even serve this cake fresh from the oven without icing. It will be delicious with fresh fruit for dessert. So I hope you'll all look for this cake recipe in your newest stack of gold medal flour or write to me for a copy of it. The recipe is economical and so easy to follow, and so sure to turn out just right when used with dependable gold medal flour. And I'll be very glad to send a copy of our new bulletin, Our Nation's Rations, to those of you who would like it. It contains many recipes for main dishes, as well as menus and other cooking hints our staff have planned, especially to fit your wartime food supplies. I know you'll like it. Goodbye.
Friends, just write to Betty Crocker, General Mills, Minneapolis 15, Minnesota, for this wartime bulletin, Our Nation's Rations. But be sure to specify the bulletin or any special recipe you may want. Betty Crocker comes to you with the good wishes of General Mills.
Marching along together, sharing every smile and tear. Marching along together, reaching till the skies are clear. Marching along together, life is wonderful, bright life.
The past hour of entertainment has come to you with the best wishes of General Mills. We'll be back Monday with more of the same fine drama and hymns of all churches. This is Charles Lyon, your host on the General Mills Hour, saying see you then.
This is the National Broadcasting Company.
Did you notice how when she gave the recipes, she gave them slowly and paused? Because they weren't offering recipes on the air where you could download them. You had to copy them off the radio. People don't realize that's the way things went. That was the Betty Crocker Service Program, 2:45 p.m. Eastern Wartime, August 10th, 1945, 80 years ago. Our next block will probably be a little longer because I have... let's see, we're going to start at 3 o'clock. Yeah, we'll have 2 more podcasts of 2 hours each, taking either the 3 o'clock to 5 o'clock shows, which would be A Woman of America, Ma Perkins, Pepper Young's Family, The Right to Happiness, Backstage Wife, and Lorenzo Jones. And then the 5 to 7 shows, which would include When a Girl Marries, and a bunch of other shows. So keep it right here. Join us for 2 more podcasts, and now you'll be able to hear 8 hours worth of radio as it was aired 5 days before, 5 days, yeah, VJ Day. It was on the 15th, and these are from the 10th, and they thought it was coming, so they recorded everything. Don't you love it? Thanks for being with us here. Classic Radio Theater. I'm Wyatt Cox.